So thank you so much for your time, and be able to share your knowledge with us. I guess I'm pretty sure a lot of people know about you, know about your work, but they don't know that you just look like a teacher from, from the ground, from the school, because you have, all the skills and the way to talk about education as a teacher. And I guess this is what makes your view so realistic about the education process and all the things that you bring together with this brilliant work from that biggest topic that you have been researching about, which is executive functions, if I'm right. I guess it's something that you are really passionate about. So my first question is, you seem to be really passionate about research on education and executive functions. Please tell us when it started and why this passion, why you are so passionate about that.
Well, I'm really passionate about helping kids thrive. And public education is a great opportunity for having kids from all different backgrounds be able to thrive. And executive functions gives you a window into most everything about a child. Executive functions have to do with cognitive skills like thinking outside the box, creative problem solving, logical reasoning, being able to exercise self-control, not blurt out the first thing that comes to mind, working memory. But it depends on one of the areas, an area of the brain that's the newest in the course of evolution and takes the longest to mature in the course of a person's life, and that's prefrontal cortex. Being the new kid on the block, so to speak, in the brain, prefrontal cortex is the most vulnerable if anything is going wrong in your life. So if you're stressed, if you're sad, if you're lonely, if you're not physically fit, prefrontal cortex and executive functions shows the effect first and most. So if we care about children being able to problem solve and think and exercise self-control, we have to care about the whole child. We have to care that they're socially, emotionally, spiritually, and physically nourished. So it gives me a window into everything. So that's why I like it.
So I guess you made this, you made myself more passionate about that. I'm also passionate about education, help kids, and actually because in my life I've never been the most talent, in my groups when I began actually capoeira as well, but I was the one who kept trying. So I really want to help kids that also have this kind of difficulties that I had in the beginning. So how can educators benefit from science evidence on executive functions and teaching learning process in order to bring better academic results to their students? Because some of the teachers, they have a lot of knowledge. Of course, the knowledge of teaching is something that's really valuable, but how can they get this science evidence and put into practice?
Well, for example, a lot of us were taught that people, including children, do better if they're a little bit stressed. So some teachers, parents, employers think they should stress people a little bit to get the best performance. And the work on executive functions shows that it doesn't work that way. Executive functions are better when we're not stressed at all. Now, it doesn't mean not being excited, but the joy and the challenge of pushing your limits, of taking on challenges that excite you, is very different than being motivated by fear or anxiety. And we know that being motivated by fear or anxiety is bad for executive functions. It's bad for children being able to do well in school. So what are ways to reduce stress in school? One way is to let children know that you're not going to embarrass them. You're not going to make fun of them, that it's okay to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. The only way to grow is to push your limits and to have the possibility of making a mistake. The only way to be sure you don't make a mistake is to stay with what you already know and stop growing. But children will be afraid to venture out into the unknown and push their limits if they think you might make fun of them, if you think you might embarrass them. So one of the things executive function research shows is the importance of the children knowing that class is a safe space. They can try new things, they can make mistakes, and it's okay, because that's part of learning and growing. Let me see, what else can executive functions help with?
Yes, I guess this thing is one thing that we might realize, that kids have to have the chance to make mistakes. That have to be, you know, a thing that it's possible to happen in the learning process. You can't expect them to, you know, do it right all the time. We don't. Teachers don't do it.
That's right. That's right. And the other thing is to remember to be kind to ourselves when we make a mistake. It's just human to make mistakes. It's okay. You're not the worst person in the world because you made a mistake. You just need to admit that you made a mistake and try to do better. And let me think of something else that executive functions can. A lot of teachers have trouble managing classes because the children have poor self-control. They're not able to sustain paying attention. They're jumping out of their seat. They're blurting out the answer. They're talking to their friends. They're not exercising the discipline that you need in class. And if you help them develop executive functions better, then you don't have to work so hard to discipline the class, because they'll be disciplined themselves. They won't blurt out the answer. They won't jump out of their seat. They won't take a toy from somebody else, because they have better executive function and they understand that if they wait their turn, they'll get a chance, that they're more likely to be able to play with the toy if they don't try to take it, but wait until it's their turn. So it can help teachers manage the class much more easily than if you're trying to struggle with children who are constantly working against you by misbehaving. Another thing research shows us is to make life easier for teachers is you don't have to do it all by yourself. If there's something you're struggling with, you can say to the students, I'm struggling with this. Do you have any ideas on how we might be able to do this better, on how we can help? And the students are so proud that you asked. And you find that they sometimes have great ideas. They're really able to help you. So it makes life easier for the teacher, and the students feel like they belong, that they're part of this, that you respect them and you value them. It's a win-win for everybody.
It seems like when you can put them inside the process of learning, and they you know, feel like they belong to them, that makes things really easier for them. And one thing is, we have to take care of the teachers. You know, the process, the methodology have to, you know, include the teachers in this game. They have to have, you know, better mental health to do their job. So that's fantastic to have this view. So
to follow up on what you just said, just like I said, if we're stressed or sad, executive functions are worse. If a teacher is stressed, she can't be the teacher she wants to be. So it's not selfish to try to take care of yourself and not be so stressed. It's important for being the teacher you want to be in order to try to relieve your stress.
It's part of our work to be able, so just take more care about yourself first. Yeah. So another question: at the meeting that that I have the pleasure to be with you over there at the Itaú Social, the event in the last December, you mentioned 2 points that caught my attention. One was how the benefits of reading to children were related, not only the amount of words read, but also the relationship of affection in the moment of reading. That was something that I guess I wanted this answer first, because that was something that was,
You're cutting out a little bit, but I get what you're saying. I can respond. What we find is what benefits children the most is not the reading itself. It's actually the conversation, the back and forth that occurs in the context of reading. And what does the back and forth involve? It involves the parent listening to the child and responding to what the child has to say. The child listening to the parent and responding to what the parent has to say. We know that the biggest driver of benefits is a caring relationship. Whether you're looking at health, whether you're looking at parenting, whether you're looking at teaching, the best benefits always come when the people you're trying to help feel that you really care about them. And one way to show you really care about them is to listen, just to listen. That says that I respect you, that I value what you have to say, and so I want to hear it. And it makes for a relationship. And that relationship is what drives a lot of the important benefits in child development. So the important thing in reading is the conversation, talking about what you're reading, listening to the child and responding, the back and forth between the parent and the child.
Yes, and I guess not the parents, but also in the school environment, when you have time to listen to the kid and to talk to the kid, and also, to give the importance to what they say, that makes the whole difference to get the contact and to have this connection that will make it happen. It will facilitate the learning process.
Yes, and to follow up on that, again, to help the teacher. I can't take time with Joey if Sam and Susie and Mary are going crazy. You need the children to have some basic level of executive function so that they're going to be self-regulated. They're going to be able to continue on their work while you help somebody else. If you don't have that, you can't take time to help one child because the whole class will go into chaos. You need the children to have the discipline to continue to work. And then you have the luxury of being to help this child or that child, or observe this child or challenge that child. Then it's a pleasure.
Yeah, much better than be, putting the fire down all the time, try to put water in the fire. And so that's much easier like that. So another question, how the participation of the elderly in the school environment could benefit the education process, above all because of the ability to listen to the child and affection. I would like to talk a little bit about this topic and the evidence that support your vision as well. I guess it's a little bit that you talk about in the first question, but you said that about the elderly. The elderly could be this an important actor in the school.
Yes. So it's a win-win for both the children and the elderly. Because when the elderly come into the schools and do this, their health improves, both their mental health and their physical health. And the children do better in school because the elderly get to feel like they're contributing and they see the positive reaction from the children. They have some meaning in their life again. And the children need people who have the luxury of being able to take the time to just enjoy them, to just listen to them. And the elderly don't have a job assignment. They can just come and listen, read with you, listen to you, talk to you, hear what matters to you, hear what problems you're having. It's great. It's great for the elderly and it's great for the children. So this was originally started in the United States with something called Experience Core. And the purpose of Experience Core was solely for the elderly. It was to improve the health and well-being of the elderly. But what they found in doing it is unexpectedly, it also improved the children's academic performance and their mental attitudes. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Yes, fantastic. And for sure, here in Brazil, that would be a really fantastic tool that you should have this in Brazil. So one question, which is a little bit for, my field, physical education, we want to bring this knowledge of science, of neuroscience of exercise to the field of physical education. So in your view, what is the real importance of the physical education professionals for children, cognitive development, and school performance?
A lot of people have focused on aerobic exercise, improves the amount of oxygen going to the brain, it improves your chemicals like BDNF. And so people have been advocating aerobic exercise. What the research shows is less cognitively demanding aerobic exercise, like running on a treadmill or biking on a stationary bike, do not do much to improve executive functions or memory. What you need is to be using your cognition in the course of the physical activity. You need to be having to think, having to quickly react, having to plan. But there are a lot of wonderful things that physical activity brings in addition to that. You have the joy. You're doing an activity you love. Now, the benefits to executive function accrue the more you practice and the more you push yourself. If you're doing something you love, if you're really committed to that, you're going to take the time to practice and push yourself. So if you can get a child involved in any activity that the child really loves, that challenges executive functions, thinking, planning, self-control, working memory, those are going to improve more. So physical activity can be a real help, I think, in improving executive functions. Also, one of the things you learn often in physical activities is that something that looked utterly impossible, like there's no way in the world I'm going to be able to do this. With practice and with effort, you become able to do it. In fact, it even becomes easy. And then you go to the next level, and the next level looks utterly impossible. There's no way I'm going to be able to do this. And you keep trying, and you learn that if you keep trying, lo and behold, you can master it. And that's a wonderful lesson to bring over to academics. This looks hard. I don't understand what the teacher's talking about. This subject is over my head. You've learned in sports, just keep trying. Just keep pushing at it, and you're going to be able to do this. There's nothing you can't do if you don't commit yourself and work hard to.
Yes, I totally believe in leave this point of view, because actually we see that in the students, but I guess we have to have this bridge, because a lot of physical educators, they have to give value for that to make the society to understand the importance, and I guess science can be a good way to enhance and to bring more value for this professional, so the professionals will have the structure and time to their job better. And I guess it's really important.
The other thing we're learning is that in order for something to transfer from one context to another, like from sports to academic, you have to make very explicit the link. So you need to explicitly say to the students, you see how this physical skill looked impossible to you, and yet after you tried and practiced, you were able to do it? Now that also applies to your math or your science or whatever. In those subjects too, even though they look really hard and you don't think you're going to be able to do it, remember, you learned in your sports that if you try, if you keep persisting, you're going to be able to do it. I know you can do this.
Yes, yes, and I guess it's the point of view that's what makes the difference about you and other researchers that don't have the feeling of the school, because this is a point of view that you have to bring this to the end point, which is academic achievement, which the development of the society. When you go to the research, must sometimes people say that's too close transfer, but it's not a big test. But that's what we want. We want a close transfer. We want bring that as close as to the end point, which is the development, of these children as much as they can develop. So that's fantastic. So one last question is, in this pandemic situation, what worries you most about the impacts of this moment on children's cognitive development? What does the child need most in this moment of distinct social distinction? What they need most in this time? Content, more disciplines, more math, and what do you think?
Well, I think the biggest challenge of these times is that they're so stressful and anxious for so many people. So I think that's the real dilemma. Also, the social isolation and not being with other people. We need to help try to reduce the stress and anxiety of the children. And we know that the single greatest mitigating factor for stress in childhood is responsive parenting by a caring, warm adult. And that can be from a teacher as well as a parent. It's caring, it's sensitivity, it's warmth. And study after study shows that buffers children against the effects of early adversity and stress. So we need to try to reduce the stress of children, and we need to let them know that we're there for them, that we believe in them, that we're going to be there for them, and that whatever it is, we're going to get through it together. And teachers need to also appreciate that sometimes children will be misbehaving now, not because they're bad children, but because they're stressed. And it's coming from a place of the stress overwhelming their ability to exercise self-control and act properly. And if we understand that it's coming from a place of vulnerability, a place of hurt, a place of worry, we can react differently than if we think it's coming from a place of being a nasty brat who's just trying to make my day miserable. The child may not be trying to be oppositional at all. The child may really want to behave properly, but be so stressed that he or she can't do that right now. And we need to extend some compassion and help reduce the stress of the children and their families.
One thing that I've in this coming back of the schools, in some mayors and the government here, they start to say no, they will come back, but less children, and they have no time to play, no place to play, because maybe they'll get together too much, and so they are having less time to play. And I guess the most need to reduce the stress would be to play, to have contact with other children. And sometimes my son, I have to to go with them, with other children. I'm playing with him, but sometimes I'm here and I'm doing my work in the computer, and I get the ball, let's do 30, and that's just count the opposite now, and then we do a little play, and then he come back because he's so stressed because he had no time to play, and he's on the screen much more than he used to do. He doesn't have the friends. And in my point of view, that's the best time in the world to have the exercise as a pedagogic tool, and also to enhance attention and to reduce stress, because they will get socialized, and this kind of play. Let's do math playing with balls and playing. we have to play more in the, I guess in this coming back, if I would, you know, I would be a director, they have, you know, play all the time. Everything had to be with exercise, because I guess there is a need to move. Children has to move. They just, you know, ask that. I talk to my students that if you want to teach the children properly, you just have to follow the, you know, the way they do. They run, so you do something for them to run. And if you wanted to talk something to them, first make them exercise, and then they will be tired, and let's talk a little bit, and then we run again. So that's the way they do. So I guess exercise could be, you know, a brilliant tool. I don't know if you agree with me on what you think.
Yes, Spiridula Vazou, V-A-Z-O-U in Iowa,
good.
has done a lot of work on embedding a little bit of exercise into lessons so that you get to run when you're doing math, etc. The more things we can do to make learning fun, the better. There's no reason why learning and studying can't be fun. And the more it's fun, the more you enjoy it, the more you'll want to work at it, and the more you'll push yourself. And the better your executive functions will be. So we should do things so that people enjoy them.
Sure. And I'm pretty sure that everybody who will listen to you will enjoy this talk. And that will be a fantastic time to learning, listen to you. So that's the biggest point, because I know it would be fun. So thank you so much for your time, and it's always a big pleasure. And I hope, you know, we keep, you know, in this way to try to help those kids to you know, improve in their lives. And that's how, I guess, I'll be in your track, trying to follow the seeds that you have planted around it.
So starting your own wonderful track in capoeira and showing how capoeira can help children thrive and do well in school. That's going to be your track, and that's a beautiful track you're opening up.
Yes, yes. But you know, in capoeira, we respect a lot the old masters, the masters that come before us. So we have the ancestrality. So we got the big masters, we ask the permission to get in the roda to play. And then we have, I have your blast talking to you, okay? It's fantastic for me. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate, and I wanna just make it. I will put this video on our page in YouTube if you agree, and probably in Instagram as well, and it'll be open to everybody.
Okay, so just send me the link. Just send me the URL.
Okay, I'll send a link, and also I'll try to make the translation to make it easy for people in Brazil to understand. Okay. So all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.